Oh, that
Whose
was the
bell just
telephone.
rang? Oh, that was your phone. Oh, I thought that was the alarm for 5 o'clock.
So
Okay, I'm gonna trust you. That's great.
make sure you got the green lights on.
And it says recording. Okay, very good. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Really appreciate, especially for the folks that joined us for the public hearing. It's a rainy night out there, and we're grateful for the time that you're taking. We have a sign-up sheet that's floating around somewhere. Does anyone see that? Okay, so if you kindly fill out your name, the street that you live on, not the number, and then once it's filled, if you could just pass it forward. If somebody can pick, Russ, could you just grab that? So we're going to do a roll call for everybody. Eric says, before we get started. So this is the start of our public hearing, our first public hearing for the Charter Revision Commission. Want to welcome you all. I'm going to, well, actually, I'm going to ask the secretary if you do call the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ms. Corbett?
Here.
Ms. Neville? Here. Ms. Jameson? Here. Mr. Case?
Here.
Ms. Holm?
Here.
Mr. Kimes?
Here.
Mr. Lampert?
Here.
Mr. Labris?
Here.
Mr. Pallo?
Here.
Mr. Perret?
Here.
And Ms. Willett?
Here.
Thank you.
Now we have to go through all again and put our first names there. So Eric, but I think you'll feel, no, that's okay. That's okay. Eric, if you have any questions, just ask anybody. Okay. All right. Terrific. Okay. So let me open it up. We're going to see the list in just a second here. If everybody's filled out their name, members of the public are welcome to speak to the Charter Revision Commission regarding the town charter and suggestions regarding any additions, deletions, updates, clarifications to the town charter as a whole and the articles within the charter. And speakers are requested to provide their name and street address, and comments will be limited up to 4 minutes. And it's obviously subject to the number of speakers here, but I think 4 minutes should be just fine. I think we should be able to get through all of that. And of course, if there are any further comments that you might have, if you've gotten to your 4-minute limit, we're going to also have opportunities for you to participate in any meeting. Every meeting is open to the public. Hearing portion is going to be at least twice. We're starting now, and then at the end of the meeting, we'll probably have one formal in between. But right now, we're going to get started. Again, glad we're here, and we've got the list of speakers, and
we also have 8 or so online. So once we get through these, then we can ask them name and address.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to go for the people here at the Town Hall Board Meeting Room. And first on the list, Roy, I think you put your name first. Did you want to speak first?
Sarah.
Okay. Sarah wants you to speak first. Okay.
And for the folks in the room, when you're up here, just make sure you got a green light. So Roy, just hit the button on the thing, and as long as it's green, you're good to go, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, a name and street number, and if somebody got a timer for me.
Sure.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. Okay,
Ready?
go.
Go. Whoops. This is my daughter when I need her. It's not working. Okay. Hi, my name's Roy Abramowitz. I live at 581 Laurel Road. Been there 28 years. So my analysis, just to let you know, I'm a CPA. I do a lot of forensic auditing and analysis of procedures. So my problem is when I review the charter, I see that there's a lot of lack in checks and balances, lack of internal control, and there's lack of best practices, best procedures. And at times I see there's an overrule of internal controls and checks and balances by management, be it the Board of Selectmen or the Town Council. And what I mean by that, I think that the Board of Finance should be appointed because the Board of Finance, even though there's many people there that do a terrific job, I think that they answer to the Board of Selectmen because they're appointed rather than the constituents. And they would not consider certain things that should be considered because of that. For instance, self-dealing. There's a lot of self-dealing going on in this town. You know, there's Connecticut General Statutes, Title 7, Chapter 113, Section 7479, employee conflicts of interest. And I see a lot of employee conflicts of interest in procurement. For instance, we had a town council chair and a board of selectmen member without competitive bidding, selling multiple millions of dollars of vehicles to the town, voting on the budget that has that in there. Our auditors don't find that. There should be rotation of audit firm. PCOB requires an SEC audit firm to be rotated every 5 years. Our auditors have been there too long, and I have brought up the deficiencies in the audit report with notes, and they come up with an answer that I think the town wants to hear, and they're totally wrong, totally wrong. I think our Department of Public Works needs a committee to oversee their procurement standards and to check bidding and to check proposals before it goes to the Board of Selectmen and the Town Council, because I think, as everybody knows here, there's been a lot of overrides, and even the Board of Finance has been upset at times on those overrides. So I think before it goes there, we should have a Public Works Committee, because we have one person doing the bidding and sending out and doing the purchasing. So to summarize, I think there's some solutions here, okay? I think we need an elected P&Z, Planning and Zoning. Why? Because we got to answer to the community, and I'll give you an example. The garage up at St. Luke's. I don't think that the residents up there were represented fairly. So I think we should be elected. Answer to the constituents, not to the people who appoint you. Again, the Board of Finance should be appointed. Now, I have a problem with the audit.
He's elected, doesn't he?
Somebody just asked the same question. You mean elected or appointed?
What did I
Or-
say?
You said appointed.
Elected.
Elected.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's what I know.
It's been a hard day. It's
Yeah.
cold out. Okay. The committee. Here's my problem. They do a good job. But an audit committee to me, and I've been on audit committees, and I wrote with Mrs. Corbett, the procedures for the audit committee. You have tax preparers on the audit committee. You don't tell me they did an audit 35 years ago for 2 months. Plus, the people on the audit committee, you have a marketing regional partner. I don't know of anybody on the audit committee who has done an audit in the last 30 years. So I think that's me.
You're not going to be able to hear the recording back home, so you know, they won't be able to hear you on recording.
Oh, could I say it again?
Yep. Right.
My problem with the audit committee is, even though there's good people on there, we have tax preparers on the audit
Sorry,
committee.
just Jennifer, how many more minutes?
You give him credit for that.
I'm just repeating what I said.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. And there's no one on that committee, I know this for a fact, great careers, hasn't done an audit in 30 years. You know, things have changed. We need people who are seasoned auditors, okay? And I think we should have an elected ethics committee. That's all. Thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank you,
volunteering.
Mr. Abramowitz.
And
Thank you.
take care.
Okay, next up is Sarah Pierce. Or is this, or then Lynn Vaughn after? Oh, you're
I'm
Lynn.
actually Lynn Vaughn.
Yeah, okay, great, Lynn. Thank you.
Help me.
Welcome, Lynn.
Thank
Please,
you.
just if you would state your name and your street. You don't have to
Sure.
give the number.
I'm Lynn Vaughn. I live at 374 North Wilton Road. So I wanted to speak with you about an example of why we need to be able to vote for our planning and zoning and wetlands officials, so that there is electoral accountability.
Being elected.
Elected accountability. I live at 374 directly across from St. Luke's School driveway. I'm part of the neighbors group appealing the school's plan to construct a 200-car garage on the edge of wetlands. I vote and I pay New Canaan taxes. The school does not. And they have a special permit to be in a residential neighborhood, not a commercial neighborhood. We have a major traffic and security problem going on in our neighborhood. Over the last 13 years, I've witnessed countless transgressions by the school that have detrimental impacts on our neighborhood. One of them is the backup of traffic on North Wilton Road, created by school drop-off, pickup, and their events. If I or any of my neighbors were creating this kind of traffic backup, it wouldn't be allowed. But the town continues to allow it in the school's case. I also run the risk of being hit head-on as I exit out of my driveway by traffic that's pulled out of the line into the oncoming lane, trying to get around it. It's an accident waiting to happen. On many occasions, cars, trucks, and vans speed up my driveway, whip around directly next to my house, and speed back down my driveway to get out of the school's traffic backup. As you can imagine, this creates a property security risk. And then I have to resort to calling New Canaan police. After the latest occurrence, Officer Rizzatelli said he's gotten many complaints and there are ongoing efforts to resolve it. So please consider how much time is invested by New Canaan police, who our tax dollars are going to, for an issue created by St. Luke's School, whose majority of students aren't even from New Canaan and is an institution that doesn't pay taxes. The school has been allowed to expand without solving the traffic problem it created, and tax-paying residents are left to deal with its cost and mess. Why do planning and zoning and wetlands not push back? The residents of New Canaan need to be able to vote for planning and zoning and wetlands official so that there is elected accountability. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. Okay, next on this list is Sarah Pierce.
All right. Hi, my name is Sarah Pierce. I live at 729 Laurel Road. I am also in the neighbors group appealing the St. Luke's garage case. Just to give you guys a quick, primer if you're not aware, the St. Luke's garage is an 80,000 square foot. It's 1.3 acre concrete building. It's illegally zoned. We go to court on February 4th. I'm comfortable saying it's illegally zoned because now that we've seen the briefs from the town, not even they are trying to argue that parking structures are allowed in residential zones. So there's a lot at stake when an appointed commission takes illegal action. I think one question that I have for you is how can an appointed commission, if they are ever found in court to have abused their discretion as they were on Grace Farms on precise issues that Grace Farms brought with these precise issues that we dealt with on St. Luke's, those commissions had already been brought to court by Grace Farms and lost, but then nothing changed. So how is it possible that the town has been sued twice in 5 years for something that a judge told you to fix? It boggles the mind. By that same question, by what system of government can an appointed chairman and secretary act with a school who brings in a presenter from Westport? Okay. And the commission spent a lot of time talking about St. Luke's kids, where they're coming from, how it's hard on them to take the bus, how many students are there. There's 600 students. There was a time when there were 300 students and most of them were from New Canaan. Now they have 600 and most of them are from outside of New Canaan. So you have people from outside of New Canaan and an appointed board getting together and deciding what's best for the neighbors of St. Luke's, the taxpayers. We're going to court, the record's done, but I've been talking to experts about this. One really interesting thing I found out was I talked to a zoning expert who had worked with the town before, and he said, I'm really surprised that New Canaan is willing to pay for this. And I said, what do you mean? St. Luke's is paying for the garage. And then he said, no, you don't, every zoning project is a math problem. And people think about it in height and but you also should be thinking, width, but you also should be thinking about in terms of weight. So all of these materials have to be brought over on our roads. And then he walked me through how the equipment that's going to need to get brought in, there's basically like 90% certainty you're going to have to repave some section of North Wilton Road, probably a large section, certainly around the turns. So who's going to pay for that? The taxpayers. So an appointed commission got together with a nonprofit who pays no taxes that serves primarily people from out of town. And they made an unprecedented decision that's going to result in our taxes going up. And we're the first people anywhere to live in a residential zone and have to fight a 200-car parking structure because it's illegal everywhere, including in New Canaan. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is Beth Uline.
Yes.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Bethany Uline, 651 Laurel, part of this Laurel group. Things I just want to point out, again, echoing a little bit of what they're saying, the treatment of 100+ voters, that's kind of the size of our group on all the neighbors combined. I think 20+ of us are abutting and bringing this to court. We're not properly contacted. I actually think it's on record at some point. They said, went out to the homeowner. I am the homeowner of 651 Laurel, and I can tell you I never got certified mail, and my door's never been knocked on. We live on the large pond that kind of backs up to said structure that was going to be built. And I just think it's a residual theme that not only was an appointed board seemingly understanding individuals that do not pay taxes and ignoring those that continually spent hours every single meeting venting their concerns. At the end of it, you do watch their ultimate vote. You could see and watch the flip-flop happening. And it was at some point a little bit comical when it went a certain way. I was wondering what part of this I missed. And really was baffled that it could even get that far. And then just via further implementation, just looking at things, St. Luke's owns properties well beyond that, up on Soundview. So what was your ultimate goal in terms of expanding the school? Was a 200-car parking garage even going to suffice on that? And ultimately, what does it benefit the town of New Canaan? What does this structure and this school do for New Canaan that would warrant such an upheaval of your current taxpayers, large taxpayers, you're in the 4-acre zoning, to basically allow such a structure to exist, which I have not found in any residential zone exists. And particularly most commercial use areas have city water and sewer. This is on well. This is up in rural New Canaan, pretty much as far north as you can go. So I just don't see where any municipal uses could be had.
Okay, thank you, Bethany. And do we have anybody else here before we go to our Zoom callers? Yeah, Christina Ross, would you like to come to? Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Christina Roy Ross. I serve on the town council, but I'm here as an individual. I live at 300 Lost District Drive. I wrote a couple of notes as to how to get started challenging the existing charter and making some recommendations for the consideration of this commission. So I like to read them.
Sure. You can also, by the way, share anything that you have in writing it. You can send it to us. That's not a problem.
Okay.
I think it goes for anybody.
It goes for anybody. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
We have recommendations or the.
Yeah.
Okay, I present these recommendations to the commission for their consideration. Conducting a detailed comparison of how the town New Canaan compares to other well-managed towns in Fairfield County and with other towns of similar population density might be valuable For example, focusing on term limits, roles of boards and commissions, and separations of power and ethics. I'd like to make specific recommendations, and this is just a start. Let's call it part one. Board of Selectmen. Study increasing the total number of members on the Board of Selectmen from 3 to 5. Should the first selectman remain as a member of the Board of Finance, or should the first selectman report to both the Board of Finance and the Town Council? This maintains the separation of powers among the Board of Finance, which serves as an advisory board, and the Town Council as the legislative body. Next, the first selectman serves on boards and commissions in an ex officio capacity and votes in case of a tie. What, if any, are the best alternatives to an independent board, commission, or council? Next, consider defining each board member's job description and clearly outlining the office's duties and responsibilities. Next, consider adjusting or implementing term limits for all appointed and elected offices, including the Board of Selectmen. With regards to the Board of Finance, compare the current number of members serving on the Board of Finance with other towns of similar size. Compare the role of the first selectman plays on the board with that of other towns. Should the Board of Finance remain appointed or elected? Should term limits for the Board of Finance members be enacted? How should the chairmanship of the Board of Finance be constructed? By a chairman or by an executive committee comprised of a chair, vice chair, and secretary? The Board of Finance, as an appointed advisory group, has the sole authority to approve fund transfers without the Town Council's approval. And it's an appointed legislative, no, I'm sorry. The Board of Finance has the sole authority to approve fund transfers without the Town Council's approval, and it's an elected legislative body. Is the process in line with other towns, and is it the present system fiscally sound? How do other towns with an appointed Board of Finance handle these issues? How do we maintain checks and balances? Town treasurer. The town treasurer's role has become a revenue generating asset. Although it is part-time, strategic planning and careful investment measures have yielded positive results. A town treasurer's independence is key to the checks and balances of the overall payment process and approvals. The town treasurer's reporting line is also a key issue that should be reviewed. Should the position be appointed? If so, what are the checks and balances instead? Should the town treasurer report to the Board of Finance and the Town Council? Is the Planning and Zoning Commission rightly sized for the needs of the department, or should it be split into two commissions, one administrative and another for permitting review? Presently, this commission seems overwhelmed by its workload, some of which may be diverted. The commission's reporting line should also be reviewed. That's the Planning and Zoning Commission. Fiscal responsibilities related
Christina,
to
just 1 minute.
fiscal responsibilities related to oversight checks and balances, financial oversight expenditure thresholds for certain levels, and procedures for making financial decisions, including significant budget process changes, need to be reviewed. Other areas include conflicts of interest, transparency, clarity, efficiency, and responsiveness to the taxpayers. I respectfully submit these for consideration. I'll be happy to submit them online.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, no more in the room then. Let's go to,
Our email group is on the website.
yes, thank you for that. So if you go to the newcanaan.info Charter Revision Commission, there is a link to all of our emails, but you can go to just the center one. It goes to all of us. And so you just make note of that. We welcome your comments. Yeah. Okay, Russ, who do we have online?
All right, I'll start from the top. A. Serbone.
Angelo Serbone?
Angela.
No, I have no comments. I'm just listening.
Okay,
thank
Andrew
you.
Brooks.
Andrew?
Takes a second for folks to
Okay.
unmute. Andrew Brooks.
Sorry. Yep, I was having trouble unmuting. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, hi everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person tonight. Just wanted to both attend and be aware of some of the discussion and ideas being shared tonight. I guess the only, just to piggyback off of what Christina was mentioning, I do think having checks and balances in our government's really important. I think the value of having, for example, an independent treasurer has shown itself out by virtue of some of the material weaknesses and deficiencies that previously existed, which are thankfully got rectified as a result of having separate eyes and ears in the finance department at the time. And I think we've all seen as well, unfortunately, in Wilton, have a similar issue play out more recently over the summer, where they don't have an independent set of eyes and ears in the finance department. So I certainly recommend heeding that example, and looking at that example. But in general, I think some of the ideas that have been shared tonight make sense from a electoral accountability standpoint. In terms of P and Z, for example, being more accountable to the electorate by being an elected position versus appointed. I think holistically, the town and the Charter Commission ought to be thinking about how can we have more elected positions rather than fewer. I think being a democracy and most I guess work in a democracy happens at the local level. I think we ought to be trying to open up positions for everyone to access in our community rather than restrict them to those who happen to be perhaps connected to other officials in the government. So I think holistically, more elected positions would be better than fewer. And I think P&Z is certainly a candidate for that, given some of the feedback we're hearing tonight. I know it was looked at 10 years ago, the Board of Finance, and I think there are pros and cons to that idea as well, whether it should be elected versus appointed, whether you should be a taxpayer in New Canaan versus not a taxpayer. So I think some of those issues certainly warrant additional consideration. I know FOIA has come up as an issue for Board of Selectmen, where because of the nature of three people, two of one party and one of a minority party, it has restricted conversations between one member of the minority party with the majority party outside of a published meeting. And I think if you were to have more members of the Board of Selectmen, perhaps 5, that would then allow for 2 members to meet without it constituting a quorum, and you could actually get business done and have conversations happen that perhaps will lead to even more effective decision making than versus having everything always have to be done in a public session. So those are just some of my initial thoughts, but I look forward to meeting with you as this process unfolds. I recall 10 years ago, I was one of the 80-something officials that got spoken to at the time, and I look forward to lending my my advice as you proceed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
And street name, Mr. Brooks.
Andrew, if you could just send us your street
Yeah,
name.
that works.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, it was 43 Park Place. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If I call your name and you don't have a comment, you could just say comment. I just have to go through the whole list here. Betty Lavastik.
Okay. next.
Betty Lavastik, nothing. Denise Lucarelli, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names. Apologies in advance.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming together and for working for the town and volunteering. I can definitely appreciate how much time and commitment is involved, so thank you very much. So I am personally online to really learn about what's happening with this, town charter being opened and the items for consideration. I live at 63 Skyview Lane. And so if there's like these special use permits that are going to be up for consideration, the country school is definitely an area of concern for me, similar to the circumstances stated by one of the residents that lives across the street from St. Luke's. It is a hazard driving there. I could get hit head on. So I'm just here really to listen and to understand how this, town charter, when it is opened, really what's going to be up for consideration. Living here 23 years now, big taxpayer to New Canaan. The town is growing exponentially. So really like growing like exponentially. And I do think we need more checks and balances, and we do need more people who are elected and appointed and held accountable for the decisions that are happening in this town. This is no longer a small, quaint, quintessential town. It is growing to almost the size of Westport, something that really has taken me by surprise. I still can't get parking downtown. These are all decisions that are being made, and some of them not so good. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Denise.
Next I have D. Lagatuda.
No comments. Stan
Thank
Lagatuda.
you. Thank you. Sorry, apologies again on the mispronunciations. Hillary Ormond.
I have no comment. Sorry.
No worries. Jan Fons.
Just
Janet
listening.
Fons.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi,
Mr.
excuse
Sir.
me. I'm Betty Lavosik. I got a new computer and a new software, so I could not unmute myself.
No worries. Go right ahead. Just state your name and the street name, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. Betty Lavosik, 69 Old Norwalk Road. I attended most of the charter revision committee meetings 10 years ago, and I agreed with the prior speakers. Board of Selectmen should be increased from 3 to 5 for the FOIA reasons that Andrew Brooks stated. Also, the prior speakers, Roy Abramowitz, Christina Ross, and the other speakers, to have elected planning and zoning, wetlands, Board of Finance, and the other ones that really should go from appointed to elected. I didn't plan to speak today, and normally I like to research what I say prior to presenting. And what I did about a half hour before this meeting, I happened to look into the charter and what goes on in other towns, and specifically Wilton. The interesting thing that works quite well for Wilton is to extend the terms. So instead of 2 years for Board of Finance, their terms are 4 years, as we have with town council. So you're not spending your time campaigning and running for election and so forth. And that makes sense for me, that you have somebody that is new to the office and is learning the roles and trying to manage, a new position if they're brand new to the environment. And for me, it's less going out to vote to have 4-year terms if it's not otherwise dictated by our state statutes. Also, in the Wilton, they restrict the terms. You cannot be elected, except for the first selectman, for more than 2 consecutive full terms. So what it means is, if we have, for example, on town council 4 years, you cannot have somebody for more than 2 full years or 2 full terms of 8 years, and then they step down for another term and then can be reelected. And I see that gives more residents the opportunity to fill in these positions, because I seem to see the same people over and over on different boards and commissions. So those are the only comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
And we're going to try a new tactic for the sake of expediency. So for those who wish to speak,
Yeah.
Raise your virtual hand
Yeah.
using Zoom. We'll see how that works. If it,
Thank you.
and then we'll
First
also
slide.
open the floor up just to make sure we haven't missed anyone.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak, either from the floor or on Zoom?
Just waiting to see if I get hands showing up on here, which I am. Not seeing any hands, which I'm
Okay, for all those
feeling-
listening and who will listen on video later, again, our commission is open to your emails. We welcome them. And if you go on to newcanaan.info, Charter Revision Commission, you'll see the email distribution list that will go to us all. Any others, Commissioner Kimes?
I am looking to see, I do not see any. So if anyone has raised their hand and we are
Okay.
not seeing it, let me know. Speak now, please.
Okay. So hearing none and seeing none, and there's been some new people who have joined us. Anyone else interested? No. Okay. Then I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all. And we are going to continue on. For those interested, we continue on for our special committee meeting, which immediately follows this hearing. So just give us a second, same Zoom. So if, just give us a minute to recollect. This agenda, this is a special meeting agenda of December 2nd, 2025. We're here in the boardroom of Town Hall. This is a hybrid meeting. And again, if anybody who wants to participate by Zoom, again, raise your hand and Commissioner Kimes will notify us. By the way, this Zoom meeting information that you see on our agenda, this is going to be the Charter Revision Commission's Zoom address. And so we'll be using this for future meetings if anybody needs to use that for any future meetings that we'll have, including interviews that we'll be having. Okay, so we're going to do a roll call again for the start of the meeting.
Thank
Okay.
you. Miss Kathleen Corbett,
Here.
Miss Judy Neville,
Here.
Miss Angela Jameson, present, Mr. Stephen Case,
Here.
Miss Jennifer Holm, present, Mr. Russell Kimes III,
Here.
Mr. Todd Lampert,
Here.
Mr. Chris Labris,
Here.
Mr. Joseph Parlow,
Here.
Mr. Bill Perret,
Here.
Miss Karen Willett. Here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Angela. So we have the minutes from our first meeting of November 18th. Those were sent around and they're also available in our minutes in the folder on Charter Revision. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes? I want to also thank Commissioner Holmes. She gave us some great ideas too. So thank you for your input on that. We also are going to be, she's present now, our record keeper, Karen Burke, is going to be from this point forward responsible for taking our minutes, recording our votes. Our votes have to be submitted to the town clerk and to our help desk, IT help desk, within 48 hours of the meeting, and then the minutes can follow thereafter. Any other comments? I've given just a date typo comment to Angela. Go ahead.
Yes, and I have two additional things that have been brought to my attention. Tucker Murphy her title is Administrative Officer, not Town Administrator, so that will be corrected. And Mr. Andrew Brooks was in attendance via Zoom, so that will be added to the minutes.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments on the minutes? Okay, thank you, Angela. Thank you, Jennifer. And let's get approval. Can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
We have a motion to approve. Bill Perret, second. Russ Kimes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So that's what the other thing we learned. We actually have to repeat everyone's. I didn't catch all the seconds last time. So, okay. Thank you. All those in favor said aye. Okay. So we've approved our minutes. I also have posted, so with thanks to all of our commissioners here, we've agreed on dates and we've posted those to our site. Anybody have any questions or comments? If you'd be kind enough to just before the meetings, just let me know whether you plan to attend in person or Zoom, or if you can't attend, if you just be kind enough to let us know in advance. There may be a tweak. I believe it's either March 30th or March 31st. It's not in front of me. This room is not available. So they will be giving us another room and we'll make sure we make note of that when we post the meeting. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we need a vote to approve the schedule of meetings. Can I have a motion? Steve Case, Chris Labrie first, Steve Case second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is actually from our former chair of the Charter Revision Commission back in 2015 and 2016. Mr. Dave Hunt, would you join our meeting? You remember this table from 10 years ago.
Technology has improved, but yes.
So as everyone knows, we invited Dave back. Dave had actually written a memo to our town clerk back in 2017. We've also posted that in our public packet. And some of the things that you made recommendations to the town council have come and gone. So if you could just be kind enough to focus on maybe those that you had recommended with respect to the town charter itself, or your recommendations about the operations of our town charter, the commission.
Yeah, happy to make a comment or answer any questions that people might have. I guess the first thing that I thought was very important was the selection of legal support, legal counsel. This group may very possibly entertain changes that will be perceived by various people in town government as adverse to their own interests. We certainly had that last time in the selection of the chairman of the Board of Finance, where the first selectman had been the chair and quite honestly thought that was the better way to go. And the Board of Finance also was affected by that discussion. And the first selectman, to a great extent, and the Board of Selectmen, to a really great extent, hire the town attorney. So you have an instant conflict when you do anything that runs, at least the perception, if not the reality of a conflict, when you do anything that runs against the people that you might be, making changes when they have the power to hire or fire those people. So I think it's very important to consider doing that. We did not, in fact, have a lot of legal counsel support needed during the period until the very end. And the support at that point was primarily over a Freedom of Information request that was filed against us that we had to defend. And it was, an unfortunate thing, but I mean, we actually did succeed in that venture, just to say it.
Dave, if you could just comment, that's when the board decided, the commission decided to move forward with another law firm.
Yes,
Okay.
up until that point, we had not had a different attorney, but we thought it was quite important to have an outside attorney to defend us. And there was sort of an instant reaction. We're spending the town's money. But we thought that was pretty important to have it. And the Board of Selectmen ultimately agreed with that. I don't want to say they were thrilled by it, but they agreed that that was appropriate. And I think it very much was. I think if you want to get people to volunteer in this town, you need to defend them. If you're not going to defend the people that you've elected or appointed, you're toast on getting good people. So we did not spend a lot of time on term limits. It was raised as an issue. I think it deserved a little more time, but we just didn't, and in the end, have it. Not to say we would have come to any different conclusion. In that regard, a number of the things that were mentioned, particularly as Christina Ross was listing a lot of areas of, worthy of thought. You will not believe, if you haven't looked into it, how much the state of Connecticut controls your life. You may think it's okay to wear black socks today, but no, it's not. There's a state law that says you got to wear brown socks. It is unbelievable how much they restrict the actions of a local community. So your charter.
You're being facetious about the socks, just so it's clear.
Only.
Okay.
Yeah, just so it's clear.
Just
It is somewhat frustrating. It was somewhat frustrating to me to find out how much the state feels they're entitled to tell us what we can and can't do in fairly small detail, but they do. And that's the law. And so as you dig into these things, having a counsel who understands that, who has some expertise in charters, is probably well worthwhile. When we discussed the subject of the Board of Finance being an appointed body or an elected body, frankly, it was relatively quickly resolved that the appointed body system has worked very well for New Canaan. One of the great difficulties in a town our size, I think, is with the kind of people who live here, that we have very high caliber citizens in town, but a lot of those people are not willing to run for election. They are willing to serve. They are willing to put their time in. All of you here today are doing that. But if you ask them to go out and basically campaign to be elected, you don't get the same response. It's the real world. You can say what you will about whether that's a good thing or not, but it's a true thing in my experience and has been in the 40 odd years I've lived here. So I think that you should walk carefully on changing things from elected, from appointed to elected. The Board of Finance being in particular one of those things. One of the advantages, if it's used properly, and you can debate that, one of the advantages of appointing is the ability to appoint people with specific skills rather than just interests. And you can select people who have the skill to handle a particular subject where you're not having someone who has a particular point of view that they're, sort of pursuing one item that's of great interest or concern to them among 10 things that a board should be considering. You're getting these sort of one-off things. So I'm just suggesting that you be careful on that subject. But it is a democracy that we live in, and sometimes, democracies have a dirty underside. So is there anything else that I would well, the issue of data gathering is something that I know you'll explore and sort out what the limits of FOIA are. We discovered that notes that are taken in a preliminary fashion are not FOIA-able, but had we simply taken those notes without putting names down and just taken the facts, which is all we cared about, we wouldn't have had the problem that we had at the end of the line. It was a simple thing to avoid, but at the time we didn't see that. We didn't think that through. And that was unfortunate.
Great. Any other points you want to make? Let me just go around the table also.
Well, I suppose this is, in a way, this is almost for a later time, but one of the things that we did do was to reaffirm having the town clerk be an elected position. I was kind of personally wishy-washy about that, and I was wishy-washy in the meeting, if anybody could go back and see it. I think having a job which is a policy-oriented job is something where an election makes a great deal of sense in many cases. I think a job that requires a great deal of technical knowledge and ability and understanding of a lot of rules and regulations that exist is one where it may make more sense to have that be an appointed position. I'm quite sure that the town clerk will disagree with me on that, but I just feel like I had to say that based on what happened 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay, very good. Let me just go around the room. Karen, I'll start with you. Any questions for Dave? Okay, great. Joe? Okay, Bill?
No.
No? Steve?
Not at this time.
Okay, Angela?
Thank you so much, Mr. Hunt. It would perhaps be useful just if you could speak a little bit too about the process and procedure and any advice you have for us about how we apportion our time and make sure that we get this job done both efficiently but in a really diligent fashion.
The process that we followed was to break up into several study teams. Each of the study teams had specific assignments to go around in the community and talk to people who might have particular backgrounds. So the team that I was a party to with Penny Young, we actually talked to the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, the Town Council, and importantly, I think recent past members of those bodies to find out if they had any reactions to the charter and things they felt maybe didn't work as well as they could, or things that they felt more strongly should not be changed because they were working well. We then gathered those bits of data into reports, brought the reports to the commission as a whole, and then just kind of started in the charter section 1, and went right down through it and made sure that we had an opportunity to at least address each and every section of the charter in sequential order.
That's next on our agenda. Yes, sorry, did you have any other thought? Just let me see if, Angela, do you have any further?
No, but any advice too about making sure that we keep on track time-wise, because we have a short period of time. We want to do a good job, but if we get too bogged down at the beginning, we're not going to end up probably with time to put together a well thought out and reasoned set of recommendations.
That's discipline in the meeting, and you have an excellent whip cracker in front of you, so. I seriously, I think it is a matter of being disciplined, you know, and there's also if somebody has an idea and it's not going anywhere, don't spend a lot of time talking about it. I mean, it's just, okay, you know, that's an interesting thought, but you know, it's not that important.
On that, we'll move on then. Joe, yes, go ahead.
You mentioned the importance and the benefits of appointing people that have particular skill sets.
Yes.
And there's lots of places in the charter that would be evident. However, there's only one position in the charter that defines a skill set, and that's the town attorney. Must be a board certified attorney. But no other positions are listed with qualifications as accountants or physician, MBA, or anything like that. So is skill sets something that should be considered? If they're important to the appointing, then they would be important to be in the charter, at least as a floor.
Well, I suppose one could go down that path of saying the Board of Finance should have at least one person fluent in this subject, one person in that. I think you'll run into trouble, to be honest, identifying all of those individually and then finding them. You'll probably never find all the individual skills you want with people who are also willing to accept that role.
But you could at a high level say one should be a CPA, one should be a tax expert, one could be an MBA, and you can go through that list.
You could do that.
And you would have, just follow the breakdown of a major accounting firm, how the partnership breaks down to major lines of service. And you get the people.
It's a valid subject to discuss.
Thank you.
No question.
McCarrow. Chris, no comments?
Mine questions are procedural. So in the last run of this, was there a way or a recommendation to be able to engender or get, I don't want to say anonymous, but feedback from individuals who may not be comfortable providing that information, but it's very valuable based upon their position?
Yeah, there was, and it was executed. Whether it should have been is a separate discussion. We had those study teams, and when we sat with each person, Penny and I in particular, talking to everybody that we talked to, told them in advance that their feedback was confidential. I believe that we got better and more comprehensive information by doing so. Whether that washes with FOIA is a separate question.
Right. And then the second one is there anyone you wish, and not just individuals, but organizations, civil service organizations, volunteer, do you wish you had interviewed that you did not at the end of the whole process?
Not that I recall.
Okay, that's great.
Not that I recall. We did cover a lot of people, Russ.
Right.
A lot. And a lot of people volunteered.
Yeah.
That helps.
Too. I mean, if there were any unintentionally left off the list, we would hear from them. So
great.
If they were interested.
Great.
I don't have any questions at this point. I'd just like to get you you skipped over one part of your input that you had on your report about conflicts of interest and compositions of this committee. So can you just maybe give us a little more background on that? You talked about helpful people no longer involved in town government, et cetera. You know, how did you deal with conflicts of interest when you had put the charter committee together initially in 2016?
I wasn't part of that putting it together. I mean, I was
town
one of
council
the people
did.
yeah.
But how did you handle that within the committee itself? Or the Commission, I think we're commission.
handle,
Voting, did people recuse themselves from voting?
I don't recall much of a need for any recusing, to be perfectly honest. I would imagine that the right answer is sort of obvious to people, that if you know you have a conflict on this point, you should probably step back from it.
Okay.
I don't really recall it coming up, although it seems like it certainly could have done.
Right. You just spent like two paragraphs on that. Yeah. Okay.
But
Thank you.
my concern was with the attorney who's beholden to the, or,
town.
the town.
That's
And-
understandable.
And we're not beholden to the town in that same sense. We are very much to making the town a better place to be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Todd?
David, I have a question. When you were going through the process, did you take a look at what other towns were doing regarding being either appointed or elected? Or did you just decide it works for us, we're gonna keep it that way?
We got a lot of information from other towns on things that they did. There were, part of the study team was to gather data outside. So yes, we did gather that kind of information. On any specific point, I can't recall, did we ask this question, like the school board, is it appointed or elected? I don't recall asking that specific question, but we did gather, part of our study team group was responsible for, sort of area towns, in particular, towns like Wilton, Westport, Ridgefield, Darien, that are more like our size and so on.
Do you recall any towns that actually went from being appointed to elected and how that worked?
No.
I'll just maybe address that point.
Yeah.
So what we'll see at our next meeting is actually, I have a list of the towns that we did a comparison to. It's old, it's 10 years old, but at least you get a sense of the.
They give us
the
some
type-
guidance
I
to
think there's
start.
7 towns and those will have to be re-researched because things have changed. But to your point, wherever there, if it was different from what the town of New Canaan had, there'd be a question, how's it working? Yeah, so that kind of question is exactly been addressed. So, yeah, we'll have to do that anew this time around.
Yes.
So, yeah, sorry, Bill.
Sorry.
I just wasn't clear on one point. The question about the law firm was the concern that they were the town's law firm, or did it really become a concern when there was a FOIA problem and you needed representation?
We didn't have anything actually come up that the law firm interjected itself into. We were concerned when we got into the subject of the first selectman being removed as the chairman of the Board of Finance. I mean, that was a, significant change. It was a significant item. It was a checks and balances issue in our view. And there was some concern that at that point that the town attorney was beholden to the first selectman. But in the final analysis at that level, he didn't really give us any advice on that caused us to say, wait a minute.
But when you
What he
were,
could have done.
was the committee at one point sued because of the FOIA?
FOIA, yes, there was a FOIA
And who
complaint filed.
represented the committee? Town attorney or an independent attorney?
An independent attorney.
Okay.
And, and
So I guess, do we have that right, I guess I would say, to be represented by an independent attorney? Could something like that come up?
We do.
Maybe that's a discussion.
we had,
We have to do
Yeah,
that.
we'll have that discussion as part of the agenda, so.
Bill, we actually did have to get the town to approve it. I mean, it wasn't sort of by matter of right that it happened. We said we need to do this, and the Board of Selectmen discussed it. I had to go to a Board of Selectmen meeting and ask for that. And there was some discussion, and it wasn't just instantly, oh yeah, fine, great.
I serve on a lot of public boards and we always have the right to, we don't have to get anybody's approval.
I appreciate that, and I think we should too, but it is town money, and, the first
Has to
selectman
go through the process, yeah.
got to be concerned about how it's being spent, so.
Yeah, I just have a question back to what Russ was saying. I remember this fairly well. And what was the distinction when you refer to a confidential discussion. That was not the interview. It was not the follow-up. It was a separate.
The study team,
Meeting or-
Penny and I were the study team that probably generated the only serious issue in that regard. I mean, I think it was most, if not entirely, the people that we were talking to, town council, former town council, and so on. And we told the person, that it was confidential. And we would like to know what really they think and what changes they think should be made or shouldn't be made. And sometimes that might come, for example, a town councilman might have said the Board of Finance really should not be chaired by the first selectman. Okay? Now, that person might be reluctant to say that in front of the first selectman publicly because, the obvious retribution aspect that's there. In theory, I mean, I'd like to think that all good people don't do that, but we're all a little more human,
And it's a town and everything.
So that's the kind of thing. And it was primarily, if not totally, Penny and me who were talking to that particular group of people where it was more likely than not that confidentiality would influence their willingness to share perspectives.
But if you had eliminated the name, would that have met the FOIA
Yes.
requirement?
Well,
So that's
well,
the
here,
easy-
well, let me tell you what we did do. We had made notes, and unfortunately, our notes had those names in them. We did not share those notes with the commission. They were our preliminary notes from which we made a report. And the report that we delivered to the commission as a whole was based on the data that we heard, but did not include an attribution to any specific individuals.
But then they
But
FOIA'd the.
They wanted
original
to know
notes.
who the individuals
Well,
were.
that's easy to
And they
just
lost.
ignore, yeah. You
Right.
can just leave the names
If our
out,
notes
yeah.
had simply excluded those names, and we didn't really need to have them,
Yeah,
we'd have been fine.
that would have been my take too.
Yeah,
But,
we would
yeah.
have been fine. They wouldn't have had a case, but it was a big fight.
Yeah, but even if the issue is not that significant, I don't see a problem with having one-on-one meetings.
Well, these were 2-on-1.
Well, even two-on-one and even a separate party, I mean,
Uh,
that would be an issue, but the
we-
same
we-
party would not.
Well, we tried to have it be
Yeah.
separate parties, but what happened, there were 11 of us initially, 6 and 5, and one of the Rs resigned.
Yes, I remember, yeah.
I mean, needed to do so
Yeah,
out of a
had
health
to, yeah.
concern. So we ended up with, Penny and I were both Rs at that point in time. And all the other teams were 1R, 1D. We were 2 Rs.
But for a confidential meeting, that would have sufficed if you were the same party, correct? Was there any issue on that?
I think it would have. I'm not going to hold out to be a FOIA expert, but I think the
All
answer
right,
is,
well,
Someone's
All right,
face just appeared on the screen.
yeah,
Okay.
you know,
All
it's,
right. Nicholas, I'm gonna hear from you in just a second, but I want Chris and then Karen and then Nicholas will turn to you in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question kind of goes to this subject, which is these interviews that you have, are we going to be recorded? Did you record them in your day?
we did not record them. We did not notice them. We did not post them. We did not invite the public.
It was just,
None of
let's
the
get
above.
Together and have a talk.
We scheduled them out with the individuals. And that was
That's
it.
gonna change.
What
That
do we-
will be a
what-
change.
What's our?
We're gonna talk about that in just a minute, but that's gonna change not because of what the commission went through with FOIA, then that was about notes. It was subsequently another FOIA issue, not involving the charter revision, about meetings and scheduling meetings over. So we will talk about that, and that was lost.
Confidential meetings that they had
Yeah.
10 years ago, we cannot replicate.
So we're going to talk about that too. I think maybe starting off and saying, everything you say to me, Chris, is going to be confidential. I'd rather say, Chris, this is a public meeting. People can sit in and listen to it. And then if you subsequently say, I have something I'd want to share that I want to keep confidential, that's something that you're asking for confidentiality. And we'll ask for Nick's comments here. That would be taken where we have maybe a report and, based on my interviews, someone has shared I can't even think of what you might want to say, but let's bring the attorney in. Yeah.
The person sent you an email saying, I'd like to have a personal conversation on this. Is that email FOIA?
So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So you sent it to one person on the commission, and we'll ask our attorney to comment on that. Before doing so, Karen, did you have a question?
No, I think the attorney's gonna.
Okay, all right. Okay.
This is the most important. part
Yeah,
of the
this is
whole-
something that the commission had asked extensively at our last meeting, and it's still an issue, Nick, so we'd love for you to comment on this.
Happy to. Good evening, everybody. All right, so I'll take the question we heard last. Is that email FOIable? The answer is yes. Any emails that you receive from anyone related to your duty here has become public record, and it's only not disclosable if it falls into one of the 20-something categories under FOIA, which I do not see how that would fall into that type of a category. It's only limited circumstances. So yeah, emails related to your business here are public records that are subject to disclosure. I'm hearing, I think it was Judy raising, hey, two might be okay, right? And isn't that a political caucus? No. I mean, I'll tell you flatly, the law is fairly clear, and you like just calling a two-person meeting of this committee with an individual that you're interviewing does not now make this a legal meeting by calling it a political caucus. That's not how it's defined under the statutes, and that's not how the courts have interpreted that justification for not noticing a public meeting. And I mean, my opinion has not and will not change. What I advised this commission at the last meeting is that, and I think also subsequent to the last Charter Revision Commission, there has been a Supreme Court case that has been issued that has clarified this to some extent. The main point, what I said at the last meeting, if there is some direction, some instruction, some indication by this commission that one or two or three or whatever little groups of you are going to go off and do a particular task to then come back and report to this whole body as part of its charged duty. Those are meetings. Those require public notice. So, I mean, that position isn't going to change. I mean, just so everyone is apprised, I mean, I've done a lot of FOIA work. I'm actually going up there tomorrow for a hearing. I'm familiar with the law. We represent a lot of municipalities. This is something that comes up all the time. FOIA, transparency. So, I mean, this is where I'm coming from. I mean, I understand and recognize, and I appreciate the input of the former chairman, because yeah, like we said, sure, people will have more candor. But I certainly, as your attorney, at least for now, do not advise that is consistent with the law. And if I could just offer an alternative, well, not alternative, I guess my perspective on the comments we heard from the former chairman, I mean, yeah, it's a fair point. There's no question there is a perception that, well, the Board of Selectmen hires Belmonte's law firm, Bertram Moses. You know, those guys are hired by the Board of Selectmen. So aren't they going to, try to do what the board might want to make sure that they keep their job? I mean, it just doesn't work that way, quite frankly. Practically, I mean, sure, the appearance is there, but the input, I mean, the example that was given, I think, by Mr. Hunt, where should the first selectman be the chair of the Board of Finance with voting power. I mean, we as attorneys, even if we, I think the word was interjected ourselves, it wouldn't be for any substantive input, whether we think that's okay or whether we think that's not okay. I mean, it's really a policy call for this commission to determine whether that kind of a provision is best for this community. And our role is to advise whether that type of a change or that type of a concept would be legal to implement or would be legal to remove. And then process wise. I mean, and the other piece we bring into this is we can advise what other towns do. I mean, I immediately represent about half a dozen towns. I said at the last meeting, several of these towns we have represented through charter revisions. We're currently in the midst of several charter revisions as well. So this is something we do have experience in. There are others, one attorney in particular, who basically does charters as his main job. But you know, we have the experience. You know, we're here, we're available. From a budget perspective, you know, we're not coming up with some giant flat number. I mean, we've looked at what our time was when we represented this commission the last go around. And similarly, you know, we're just charging, or we would be charging our typical hourly rate that we normally do for other town attorney business. So just to offer that perspective.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
If you wouldn't feel terrible about a little response to that, Nick, I did not mean in any sense to disparage Bertram Moses in this. But, you know, an awful lot of stuff in the law isn't in fact black and white. And you have an opinion. And it's probably a good opinion. But is it clearer that it's not influenced by, you know, the people who are paying you? I guess that gets down to saying that there's a little bit of a theoretical real conflict, and I think it's fairly minimal, but the appearance of conflict may be larger. Oh yeah, he supported those guys because they're paying him. No, he didn't. He did it because he's a good lawyer and he's trying to do the right thing. That's probably the real thing, but the appearance may not be that. And I guess that's part of my concern, to be honest.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Nick. Russ, did you have one final comment? And then we're going to go on to the next item.
Yeah, it was, no, 100%. It was exceptionally brief. And hi, Nick. It's just, in the discussion we had last time, the discussion we had this time, I think we continue to struggle with, and I'll pivot it to you. So you are aware of no mechanism or process whereby someone who might be uncomfortable on public record providing very valuable potential feedback can do so.
I think you would need to add the word confidential.
Confidentially, correct. Thank you. That's the key word.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a specific question?
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Can someone send in an anonymous email to the website?
Yes, I think they can. I mean, it becomes a public record at that point. I mean, we can't refuse input. You know, what the utility of that input would be from some random anonymous person is a different question.
What if that person called Kathleen and spoke to her? Not voicemail, not text, not email, you know, translation. And I'm not trying to be nasty about this, but sort of there's no real record, okay? It's just a call. Somebody called Kathleen and said, blah, 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 blah.
The problem is Kathleen would have to share it with us to have any weight. She couldn't say somebody anonymous. I can't tell you who, but you have to trust me. Carries no weight.
Their
At
initials
least
are.
would not carry weight with me.
Unless she was convinced of the value of the argument and then represented it as a law.
Yeah. Well,
Then there'd be no
let's,
knowing.
I would say if we ever cross that, we'll address that. I can't imagine what those might be until they actually happen. And we'll take it up then. It's a real issue. Yes, Joe.
Could that person deliver the information to the attorney under attorney-client privilege?
So Joe, if you use the mic.
But he won't have any.
Could that information be delivered to the attorney under attorney-client privilege?
The
It's not
folks,
as fun.
yeah, I mean, that's one piece, but I'm also not a member of this commission. And even if I were, it's, you know, the same issue that Todd just summarized.
We should strive for full transparency as a board.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about
But
that
it
on
gets
the
tricky.
next item, which is about the interviews and so forth. And if we have to face that situation, we'll raise it. But for now, I don't want to speculate about that. Dave, thank you. You know where we're here every other Tuesday at 5 o'clock. You're always welcome to join us. And I don't have any questions for you because I knew all the answers that you would give us. So thank you very much.
Thank
Okay, thank you, Dave. Yeah, so
Yes.
so Commissioner Parrott has asked, should we discuss the attorney? I've actually have that item under item 7, under the budget decision, because that's going to come up. You know, it's in the budget review. And I'm just mindful, we've got 15 minutes before Commissioner Parrott drops the 75-minute rule, but we're going to push a little bit more, a little bit further. I know that Karen has the meeting that she has to take on at 7 o'clock. So let's try to get through. Some of this is not going to take much time at all.
Could I just say that
Yes.
P and Z is being cancelled for this evening?
Oh, has it? Okay. All right. Okay.
Oh, how
Good to know, but I'm not going to drag this on further. Okay, thank you. All right, so last 3 items. I sent around a list of people that we might want to consider to be interviewed. And I understand that some of you, Russ, you sent some additions. I welcome any additions that you want to put forward to me. I'll add them to the list. Out of respect for everybody who's on the list, they will be, we'll reach out to them. They can say, I don't have any comments or what have you. So that's going to be a ever living, breathing list of potential people who might wish to speak to us. In some cases.
As a matter of
Yeah,
course,
Chris.
are you going to interview all current members of boards, commissions,
Yeah,
elected bodies?
So if you notice on that list, in some cases, I just said Park and Rec Commission. So in some cases, the Fire Commission as an example, as I'm trying to think about, said, look, we all think the same. We just have you come in and talk to the commission.
So all the selectmen, all the town council, all the board of finance.
Yeah,
all
if they
PNC
wish to
people.
speak, if they wish to speak as a group, they're welcome to. If they want to speak to us individually, that's also available.
I noticed, I don't think the Historic Review Commission was on your list.
Okay, so any suggestions that you
I'll send
have,
them back,
just kindly send. Yes, Karen.
Sorry, I missed that email earlier, but there are some commissions like or committees now that are not in the charter.
Correct.
And I was just wondering if last time there was a reason for what goes into the charter and what doesn't, if there's any logic to that.
So the question is, where you don't have a commission or committee currently on the charter, you know, where's the discussion happen? So we actually did have quite a number of boards and commissions that were not on the charter actually be added. Audit Committee is one of them. Inland Wetlands was another. It's actually, if you look at, it's on the website, but if you look at this report, it shows you the boards and commissions that we added, 4 or 5, I believe it was. And so if there are any that are not, some of them we said, look, it's too new, Utilities Commission.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if it was.
And so we
Not
would have
all
to
in there.
have a conversation about that. What are missing? Is it appropriate to put it on the charter, et cetera? So yes, good question. Yes, Phil, did you have something else?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Okay, so number 1, if you'd be kind enough to send me any updates to this list, and in our next meeting, we'll go through, because I've also sent out a list of all the charter elements. I actually have hard copies if anybody in the audience wants them. You want a hard copy? And so there are 21 articles for the charter. And what I've done is we're going to identify who's going to be the reviewers with each of the groups that is on it. So these are tied in with, think about the names on one side and then the topics on another. Now, our first selectman is going to have probably a comment on everything, perhaps. But somebody else might be only interested in talking to you about the Board of Finance. So there will be or they might be interested in talking to you about something more. So that's something that we're going to have to pair together. So I'm going to take Chris as an example. I think Chris, you raised your hand. You said town council maybe was one of your priorities. Okay. So if you're town council, you think about your interviews with all 12 people, maybe some want to do it in groups, and you have to have one other person join you. So if you'd be kind enough, at least one other person, if you'd be kind enough to share with me your priorities as to which group there's 11 of us, right? So we want to distribute ourselves. If you are interested and say, gee, I'm awfully interested in what Chris's conversation he's going to have, maybe there's 4 or 5 of us. We are going to publicly list these meetings, and we can talk about whether they should be in person or by Zoom. We have our own Zoom account now. And we set it up, let's say set it up by Zoom, and let's say Chris and Russ are the 2 primary people who are speaking to the town council. I'm just making this as an example. Others may participate. The public may participate. However, the Q&A is really going to come from the 2 primary people. We don't need, many people asking the person questions. They can send questions to the 2 people, the leaders of the interview, if you will. And that way we're not losing track of time. They'll also be recorded because you have to take minutes for every meeting as well. So we'll just have them, it's easy to do that and record it. Jennifer reminded us there's a great AI feature that actually helps take those minutes. And so I think it should be a lot easier than it was 10 years ago because we didn't have that 10 years ago. And so that should be kind of a way to go forward. So they have to be posted. They will be posted as special meetings. They have to be filed with the town clerk and the IT help desk. So we'll work through that in terms of scheduling. So we're ready in 2 weeks' time when we have our next meeting. So it's all laid out. Okay? Yes.
So Kathleen, the approach that you outlined, we talked about that a little bit at the earlier meeting, and I thought that was a good approach. But listening to public comment today, I'm wondering whether we should take a slightly different view, at least as to maybe not the interviews, but the work teams.
The work needs to
For
be done.
example, a lot of people talked about elected being appointed versus being appointed. And rather than have every study group consider that, then how do you put that together at the end?
Right.
Maybe there should be one study group taking a look at that holistically.
So
And then picking up on that point, one of the things that I want to at least think through is in order to be elected and or appointed, do you need to be a resident of New Canaan? Do you need to be a resident of the state as defined by the state? Term
taxpayer.
limits.
But you need a primary resident, is what you're. No, or maybe do you own real property?
You own real property?
Or primary or both?
I think we should, I think we should think about that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a holistic thing because as one of the guests said, town's changing, the number of people are changing, more and more people coming in from other places. Where is their residency? So we should think about that.
Absolutely.
And maybe do that holistically. And then we could, break it down into the individual groups and take some of it off the table if you want.
Right. So to Bill's point, and I appreciate that, there are some common themes, not only that we heard today, but elsewhere about things that we can say, okay, where in our charter do we have these broad themes should we be talking about and thinking? Now, people are going to give us input to that as you do your 82 interviews. But at the same time, we can lay those forward as just obviously a meaningful conversation piece that we'll have as commissioners. So to your point, so it's going to be 2 things. One, how do we address meetings? How do we identify people who we want to meet with? How are we going to go through the charter itself? And then what are some of the themes that we're hearing coming out and how we're going to address that as commission?
But I wouldn't want to wait till the end.
No.
Yeah. We should
No.
study
Somebody's
it
coming right
upfront,
up. Yeah, right up front. And also, Todd, I think what are other towns doing? So an assignment of doing the research behind the other towns. So we'll all have that in 2 weeks' time. Okay, in terms of assignments. All right, so get me your priorities, if you have any additions to the list of interviews. And then also, if you want to send me, again, it's not for discussion on email, but if you want to just send me, what are some of the themes and topics that you think you'd like us to talk about? So, okay, so those three things. Any other questions on item 5? No? Okay. One of the things that follows up on this, and we're getting some great input and appreciate this opportunity of everybody to come and speak to us directly, but not everybody has that time. And so if we perhaps created a public survey, if you will, where people can enter, sort of their themes, who they are, what their street address is, and what particular area they have comments on. Anybody want to raise their hand and volunteer to kind of create a survey? Can I have a second?
I will, sorry.
Okay.
Wanna work together?
So
Super.
why don't we have the two of you? So Jennifer and Karen will work together, draft. And so in 2 weeks, let's have that draft in front of us here.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Not unreasonable? Okay. And then we'll post that to our website as well, so people can enter their information. Okay.
Hopefully, if you need help doing that, through the newsletter.
Perfect.
That would be.
Perfect. Okay. So
Best.
just for the record, First Selectman Carlson has offered to promote that on her newsletter and beyond, and so people can to access that. And great, that's fantastic. Okay, anything else on that? The survey? Yes.
Got a question.
Oh, sorry. Question from Joe.
I should have spoke up before you closed item 5, but what is the pathway for how the teams will be developed and the timing for item 5?
I'm looking at priorities right now, so I'm trying to give everybody their first or second choice.
Okay.
And so in 2 weeks, I'll gather that, and in 2 weeks' time, I'll share that. And if you say, no, I don't want to work with him or her, that's, you're free to say that. So, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the question. Okay, last item, and actually, I do see we have 5 minutes, actually. Actually, I'm going to invite Christina up here, Christina Ross, who is actually the author of the report that I sent out in terms of the budget review for appropriations. And this actually ties into whether or not we should, as a commission, because one of the largest line item on the budget for the commission is legal costs. And we do have a proposal that's already been approved, actually, by the Board of Selectmen from Birch and Moses for serving as a town council to the charter revision for $30,000. And by the way, 10 years ago, it was 28. So that's the difference there. Our former chair has brought up that should the commission consider seeking other independent counsel. And as you heard, we actually did have to use 10 years ago when we had an issue that was beyond just the normal operating of the charter revision. We brought in a special counsel, and we had to get approval by the Board of Selectmen. Do we as a commission want to think about and go through the process of interviewing other firms or attorneys that focus on charter revision? Or do we think that we're far enough along and that we have a firm that we have worked with in the past? And I think, I'll just speak for, I'll concur that had we started earlier and thought about this, we might have had some time to actually think about interviewing other firms and so forth. And then we could have looked at what the cost is and what the value is for bringing in somebody else. I don't know that we're there now. This is my own personal opinion. And so I'll go around the room. I'm sorry, I don't generally like to offer my opinion before everybody else has a chance to talk, but that's where I'm currently thinking. But Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between what a law firm does and maybe having a charter revision consultant. Attorneys opine to what we're doing legally or not legally. They shouldn't be involved in the decision-making that we're doing as to what our processes are and what we believe as a community. So for me, I think the legal fees may be a little heavy-handed because we're looking for one firm to do two things. So for me, I don't know if we can ever get there, but for me, I did a quick research. There are charter revision consultants out there that are fully independent. That's who we should be relying on if we have questions as far as what's best for our town, not the attorneys. The attorneys just opine to the
Right.
legality of it.
That's right.
So for me,
Yeah.
I don't know how we split it up at this late date, but that's the proper procedure.
I would agree with Todd.
Yeah,
I did
I
the
do
same
too.
sort of review. And there are people out there who provide, I wouldn't say guidance, but expertise because they're acting as consultants and they are allowed to have opinions. I would agree with you that the attorney's there to opine on
Yeah, and
the
that-
regulations, the state, et cetera.
And that gets rid of the conflict.
Yep. That's right.
You do two things at the same time. It cost wise,
It should be the same if you start at the beginning the right way.
well,
You know,
we're
because-
close to the
yeah,
beginning.
Yeah, we are,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's.
So I would look
fair.
at how we do that. Just an idea.
Okay, all right. Did you want to add to that, Judy?
I'm fine with that. I don't think you want any even modicum of impropriety or conflict or, I've done this more than I wish to admit, and you have to really be careful. From the public point of view, not us so much, but the public's perception of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
I concur. It's the number one thing that the prior chairman brought up as an issue, and I think that it should
And
be
that's valid, yeah.
carefully addressed.
And again, just to Todd's point, are you referring to legal advice or advice on charter revision in general?
I think the charter revision in general, having a outside party to
Consultant.
provide that a consultant, I think it has great benefits versus legal interpretations of things like FOIA and challenge.
Because I think our law firm is fine for legal interpretation.
Yeah.
They're this, they have the best expertise in the state, as far as I know. I would keep them and I would get other advice.
Secondary advisory roles, yeah.
Okay. Chris, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical about consultants.
It depends. Yeah.
Me too.
Consultants, you know, it depends what they know.
Mhm.
And it depends, how, whether or not we can vet them. You know, and a consultant is going to advise us on the process of charter revision. It's not the same thing as a consultant who's gonna manage your money. You know, there you can have hard figures, you can say how many clients you have, what's your track record? You know, and I point this out because when I was president of the library board, we looked at consultants to help us develop a capital campaign. And we interviewed several, we hired one at one time. None of them were worth the time or money we spent on. What finally worked was getting the right people in the chairs and then doing it ourselves. So I just am a little skeptical about consultant. I feel more comfortable with a law firm. So I don't necessarily want to say I'm not comfortable with somebody advising us and answering our questions, but I value the question of value.
Oh, sorry. Christina, you're not on our group, but I was gonna, sorry about that. Karen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Chris, but I don't know anything about the consultants in this area, so I think a little research on, it sounds like some of you have done that. And then getting references from other towns that they've worked with to see what the value is and then decide from there.
Thank you. Joe?
I think consultants can play a role if you really target them and bring them in properly. I think we should have the capacity, but in a very limited, focused way.
Okay. Bill?
I agree at that point. I think if we are going to hire a consultant, we'll know it when we see it. We'll bring him in a targeted way. I'm not at all concerned about the law firm. I mean, at the end of the day, the town's paying for the law firm, or we're paying for the law, if we would hire somebody different. So whose allegiance is to who? Is it to you? Is it to the first selectman? You wind up with all those issues. You know, if we have a problem, we'll figure out how to deal with it. What I am really concerned about is if we get into a FOIA problem,
Yeah.
who's going to represent us?
Yeah.
That is a real issue. And I'm not suggesting the town council would abandon us, but it's a reputational issue. And if they just said, we don't think this is a real problem, you want a law firm, hire your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a non-starter for me. And also, you know, as someone talked about earlier, getting people to stand for elected office. If the answer is, if you're doing the very best you could possibly do as an elected official and you get sued, which everybody does, you got to pay for yourself. no one will run for
No
office.
one would do it.
Right.
Yeah,
So this,
that's
to
right.
me, that's a real issue, and we need clarification now from the
Mhm.
town council on that, in my opinion.
Council, COUNSEL. Not the
Yeah.
town.
No, it's the people who can write the check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Steve?
I had gone down my path of doing the research on local firms and I'm
I
a
love this
former
group.
consultant.
Sorry. go
I'm a
ahead.
former reform
Yes, I.
consultant and I think that they could be of great use if they're qualified.
Mhm.
And I think we need somebody very specific. And if we could find that person, that would be money well spent. On non-legal issues, I'm fine using the town's attorney when the legal issue is coming up. But somebody that's specifically knowledgeable and their career has been spent in understanding, charters and what's appropriate in Connecticut and this area of New England.
And what's changed in 10 years, because
Yeah.
that's really. yeah.
Knowledgeable about
That's
the
what we don't
surrounding
know.
area.
That's where we save time.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's funny, a lot of these consultants are actually, if you look into it, are ex-attorneys that did this and now have
Now.
transitioned, but now they're
Business.
independent. Yeah.
Angela?
So I think in an ideal world, we would have gone out and found ourselves our own law firm, but we are where we are time-wise. And I think we could spend a lot of time interviewing alternative attorneys and, delaying the actual work that we need to do, thinking about the town charter and things that could or should change. As far as consultants are concerned, I have to say, I'm very sorry, Steve, but I'm a little leery because it seems to me they're in the business of suggesting changes. And, whether change is really necessary or not, I think is something that we as a team should be thinking about for ourselves. And my experience with consultants also is that they tend to have a template, and if you're not careful, one size fits all, and the template that fits maybe some bigger city would be applied to us.
So I thank you, everybody. Everybody has great ideas and I appreciate that. And we'll take this forward. I will say that we are blessed with having 85 independent consultants because we're going to get interview opportunities with everybody who at one point in their work with the town, whether it's on a board or commission or going through the charter revision 10 years ago, we have some pretty experienced people in that already, which is a good thing. Whether or not, and I did watch a couple of, there's a fellow named Steve Mednick, who is a CRC. Did you watch this fellow? Yeah, I watched him. He's doing Norwalk now. He's doing Weston. He basically runs the meetings, right? Did you watch it? Yeah. And so.
As a consultant.
And
Wow.
yeah, he's a consultant / lawyer, I think.
I think it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not trying to pick on him, but I just said it's pretty expensive because I looked at some of the
That
fees
would be my
associated,
question. Yeah.
with this, and maybe we're at a position. I don't mind doing the research and seeing who's out there, but I'm not certain as to what the need is right now. I know that 10 years ago when we looked at the 7 other towns that were similar in size, the Charter Revision Commission did the research. They didn't hire anybody else to do it. They did the research. So I think we are an able-bodied group that, can go pretty far with our own capabilities and research and so forth. To the extent that we're limited in any way, absolutely fine. Bring in somebody with, I think that's fine. But I think maybe if you come back to us in 2 weeks with a list of people that you'd like us to interview, I'm all for that. I won't, but I'm not sure I understand what we'll use them for at this moment.
I agree with you. I just think it's for limited purposes. Instead of the attorney, if we get to that stage where we need somebody.
Yeah.
To have somebody to say, okay, we have an issue on this one thing, we're
Yeah.
divided.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give us some of your expertise.
Yeah,
That's it.
I don't think
Limited.
they offer their services in a kind of like, a different menu. I'll answer this question, or they want something on
They want a
contingency,
contract.
but we'll find out. I beg pardon?
They want to come.
They want a
Well, that would
contract,
be,
yeah.
that would be my first question. Second would be, we wouldn't want to be paying for them and legal counsel.
Well, you
'Cause-
would.
But
if we did,
that's
yeah.
my concern. You
Yeah.
do one or the other. And if you're not comfortable that they can't handle the legal representation if we need it, then we should be with a firm and not a consultant, even if we want to choose our own attorney.
Okay. Well, this discussion was all meant to actually address the budget item that Christina Ross had put forward to us. And Christina, the answer is we're probably not ready right now to tell you how much we're going to be needing as a budget. But if you do look at this, and Christina, why don't you just give a little background as to what very great work done by you and others to put this together. You have 2 minutes to tell me what you hope to achieve from this commission, and what information do you need from us?
Well, what I wanted to do was to create a budget that would be basically a maximum number other than emergencies that would come up. And in creating that budget, if the town council approves the budget, but later on either the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance wants to reduce it, by statute, we have the authority to put it back to the amount that it was originally approved. So my purpose was to address some of the issues that happened last time and to ensure that you had enough monies approved in a budget that would allow you to function. And I wouldn't want the commission to feel limited by the money spent, because what we're doing by appointing the commission is to basically empower you to really look at the charter for a period of 10 years or more. So it's important enough that we spend the right amount of money at this time to get the best job we can. And by far, I mean, all of you are just volunteers. The least a town can do is provide the finances to support your efforts.
Well, we think
so. I tried to address all the expenses that I found to be necessary, but that doesn't mean that it's fixed. You have to come back and say, no, we need more.
Yeah.
Or what Bill stated, if you want assurances that the town will pay for any FOIA legal fees, we can include that in as to a statement that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance agreed to.
Okay.
But the purpose is to create a budget that's substantial enough to cover your expenses.
So I will say that Christina's work and others' work is done. It's great. If everything I see, the secretarial services, the notices, and that's perfect. I mean, we're not in a position to, say, oh, it should be higher or lower. If you've done the work, that's fine. I do know that we can't, the budget that we put forward, however, the budget is really something that's going to be effective July 1st, 2026 to November. So that's the budget. But anything we need now in this current fiscal year is going to be on contingency and ask for appropriation.
But you still
have to ask
need
for it.
to have that, and we
Yeah.
need to approve it in order for it not to be reduced. So it's
Correct.
a technicality.
Yeah.
That's in the statutes, but
Yeah.
I want to assure you that
Thank
you
you.
have the money secured.
Thank you very much for your confidence.
Okay.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
Okay. We will, what I understand is they're currently in the budget discussions starting right about now, the next 2 weeks, where the board, obviously the first selectman is looking at this, and then the Board of Selectmen. So we have to get to them with what our budget is for 26, 27. I don't have any reason other than if we hired a consultant, that anything on these numbers would change. So that would be for next year's budget. And for the contingency or the appropriation for this year, again, other than potential consultant fees, I'm happy with the numbers that they came up with here. Does anybody have any other thoughts or comments? Okay, so yes.
So relative to if we need representation, how are we going to get that documented? I don't think it should be.
Representation in terms of legal.
If we're sued legally.
If we're sued,
I don't think
okay.
that, an
There's a
individual person
contingency.
should be able to pull that parachute.
Yeah.
But, 4 of the 11 or 5 of the 11, I don't think it's a majority.
Yeah.
Some process, because, I'm speaking from experience where, it can get, if you want good representation, it can get expensive.
Yeah.
And I hope we never need it.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't have to pay it ourselves.
Okay.
Can I just ask, you would remember this, how did you arrive at Shipman and Goodwin the last time?
Advice from Tom O'Day.
That's a good source.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just ask him again.
Well, I think maybe as a something we can look at, I don't think the fees for that particular thing are in this budget yet. However, if we just go back as 10 years ago and say, how much did that cost us to basically prevail on that suit? And that would be the kind of estimate of if we are needed. Christina is nodding. So if, God forbid, we need something like that, that's sort of set as a provisional item in the budget. Does that seem right? I don't know what the number is. I don't remember what it was.
Do
Joe,
we
and
have
then
the
Chris.
authority to repurpose things in the budget as things?
Line
evolve?
items?
Line items.
Yeah.
Transfer within this?
Yeah.
Oh, do you, Christina?
There's a 15% contingency in the budget. And if
Right.
you need to, it's a budget, so how you distribute it, it'll be up to you.
You think that's right? Okay. Okay.
Usually the line item transfers up to 10,000 you can do.
Okay.
So
Line
that
item
would be my-
transfers.
that would
yeah.
be my gut
Okay.
guess.
It depends
Yeah,
how
that's
it's,
more than
depends how it's set up. If it's a block grant, then you can spend any way you want.
Okay.
If it's
you
just
know.
one line item. If it's broken into separate line items, then you're gonna have to go through the whole process of moving from one line, from mail to, consulting services, or whatever it is.
We want to make it the most flexible.
Yeah,
for
so
the
a block
commission.
grant, then you just, you get,
Would you do a block grant for the budget for next fiscal year?
yeah, you
or-
just get,
Here's the
charter commission,
Okay.
$100,000. That's
Okay.
your budget.
Okay.
And it's just one line.
Okay.
That doesn't take effect until July.
That won't take effect
Yeah,
until
so they
July of
won't-
next year.
Well, I think his question is now.
Well,
Is
you
that
probably
not-
have to
is
go
that
for a
what I'm
special
hearing? Yeah.
appropriation.
We
have,
do.
The whole.
We do.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go
8
for a
months.
special appropriation.
Okay.
I'm surprised this didn't come in the last year's budget because we knew this was
Well,
coming.
I thought it was, and I looked,
Yeah.
and I couldn't find anything, and you're on the Board of Finance
Yeah, I mean,
now
we didn't
still, and
discuss
I'm
it. I'm,
thinking-
when we did general
Am I not
government, I'm
looking?
surprised.
I
this
don't
didn't
know that
come
they
up.
knew that they were going to have a charter
Well, they
revision
did.
commission.
I mean, they should.
Well, they
yeah.
should have though.
But
Well,
it was still under debate.
but I still think we have
Well,
that
then,
gap
as a result of that debate, we now have to go for a special appropriation.
for 8 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
for 8 months,
Or
but
at
which is
least 7,
which is
yeah.
the majority
Yeah,
of our work, in
I
fact.
think so too.
According to this
that's what I'm
estimate, not
yeah.
included, it's $50,000, not including bringing in any consultant.
Yeah.
So
Now,
That's
the
starting-
legal fee.
November through
Oh,
July.
that's
There-
November through July,
It-
but then
it- is there a-
July onward.
But there's not a separate line for legal. in
Yeah,
there.
there is
Yeah.
20,000.
Oh, that's been allocated so that's a supplement to what we pay the
Correct.
firm as a whole.
Yeah, it's an additional
All right,
charge.
so if there's already a $20,000 legal fee in there, then we should have the independence to say who's going to get that. And if we feel more comfortable being represented separately, then we should do that from the
So
get-go.
it still has to be approved by the Board of
Fine,
Selectmen.
we can take it to Board of
If we get
Yeah,
a
we-
different legal
Yeah, we can go there.
representation.
Yeah,
But we
that's not
should,
addressing my issue.
Yours is a
Well,
contingency.
there's two
There's a
different issues.
contingency for,
Yeah.
Well, my
That's
my
litigation.
issue wouldn't even be in the budget.
Be litigation.
litigation
Budget.
risk.
Yeah, it'd be litigation risk. I mean, I can't admit, it can't be that nobody in the town has that.
I don't know.
Well,
No,
I
but
think
you
what
approve.
I think what Christina said was that they would put a blanket statement in there
For us, yes, but
that if there's an issue, that we would be covered. I don't think they're going to do a budget item. for
no, I
that.
agree, I agree.
It's just, it's just.
You
Exactly.
just want a commitment.
I don't have to go and ask them when we covered. I want to make sure that's a given.
I think
And
she
we
said
can-
she'd put it in writing, and I think we should get that.
Yeah. But also, when you have legal expenses and they exceed what's in the budget, that just is reviewed on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
Happens all the time.
it happens
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't, but it does.
Let me go to
That's
Steve.
Not big.
Steve,
just a question, are we covered under the town's E&O insurance for issues like this? Or would it be a town appropriation for legal fees if there is an issue?
it was, you mean personal or as a commission?
As a commission?
As a
and
commission, we did go to the Board of Selectmen to ask for appropriation for the additional legal fees to cover the FOIA question. 10 years ago.
I think the question was
Could we be
slightly
covered?
different. The town has a D&O policy, director and officer
Okay,
policy.
well, which would be individual.
Are we
Yeah,
deemed to be directors and officers for that purpose?
I think we would be.
I think so.
Well,
We'll find
Get a
out.
clarification.
We'll find
I
out.
mean, I actually asked for this in writing, the first committee of its kind 20 years ago. So no, it's not an assumption, and yes, you do have to ask for it.
I think we should
So
ask
unless
for
there's
that
been some
because
major movement with,
You have to ask for personal.
you have
detail.
to ask to have that included and covered. Now, maybe it's all changed and maybe everyone is,
Carrier, sure.
but that was a really hot issue.
You would need
The
a separate
carrier would want
endorsement.
to know that there's an
You
additional
need an
liability.
endorsement,
Yeah.
separate endorsement.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
And we should ask for a separate endorsement. Is
we'll
that an
get- we'll get
expensive
that. That's what you mean.
endorsement?
No, but you
It's an
still have
endorsement,
to
yeah.
know you're covered. You have to know that if you say or do something that you're protected.
Especially when you're doing this at kind of.
I am, yes,
With
we're
regard to
witching
E&O,
hour. Yeah.
we're not really doing things operationally. However, the charter will live 10 years beyond we approve it.
That's right.
So retrospectively, in year 9, you can get a call in Bermuda or somewhere. Say, hey, you approved something, we're taking issue with it. So
Okay.
it's a 10-year liability.
Okay.
That's true. It is a 10-year liability.
Yeah.
Could I just add, maybe this is a general issue we need to think about in relation to all appointed and elected officials.
It might
whether
be a
they
charter
are-
item.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it
whether,
should be.
whether they are.
I
going
thought
to
so
cover-
then.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to get that done then because I
Someone has
created
to
the
have an answer
first
to this.
charter.
Can't be
report.
We will get that. And
It's
I don't know
time.
if
If it
Nick is
hasn't,
on.
it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Nick is still on, whether he knows that, but is Nick Lamonti still on the line?
Checking.
Here he is.
Yeah,
There he
there
is.
he
Hi, Nick. You're still with us.
I'm still here.
Did you hear the debate about questions about whether or not there's directors and officers liability insurance for?
Yeah, I have no idea of what the town's policy actually says. I mean, just based on my understanding of how these management policies work in other municipalities, I'm not sure it would cover the potential litigation that this commission could be subject to. I mean, someone can certainly check, but I mean, if it's like last time, if you guys, and hopefully you don't, encounter some sort of FOIA complaint, I don't see how that falls under the insurance policy. It would be, a legal expense.
It would be a legal contingency. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the question goes to, is that a personal violation or a committee violation? And
Depends who sues you.
Sorry?
Depends who sues.
It depends on who sues you,
Some
but
people just
then,
name everybody.
yeah.
But even
Well, if it's a FOIA complaint, I mean, the whole commission's going to get named, even if they name a specific individual. But so, I mean, the way FOIA complaints get docketed is, against the agency. So, yeah, I don't think any of you folks are really in the crosshairs for some sort of personal liability claim. I mean, I'm struggling to even think of what a cause of action would be against you folks personally for what?
Well, I think a FOIA complaint against the committee saying the chairperson ran an improper process is damaging to her reputation, or that I ran an improper process damaging my reputation. And that's why I want to make sure if she or he is going to defend their reputation, the town pays for it. Now, if we did something egregious that we shouldn't have done from a personal standpoint, maybe the town doesn't cover that, but we should have some definition.
Sure. We'll get that definition.
I mean, today it's not a money issue, it's all about reputation.
But Nick, I'll just clarify, and Dave's no longer with us, but I believe that they were personally named in that litigation for that FOIA complaint 10 years ago. Penny and Dave.
they were, as I recall, but
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that one bit.
All Nick said is it's docketed
recall
by the
that,
town. So
yeah.
on the docket, it shows the town. Doesn't mean you're not sued separately.
I recall it, though. I recall
Yeah.
the discussion.
Okay,
I mean,
we'll get the
a
answers
FOIA
to this.
complaint, I mean, I know we're trying to wrap here, but a FOIA
Yes.
complaint is an administrative proceeding. It's something very different than actual litigation. I'll end with whether you choose to use Bertram Moses' services for purposes of this body's role. I mean, we're still the town attorneys, and our charge is to provide legal representation and support to all of the town bodies, which this is. I mean, sure, that you're independently enabled under state statute, but you're still a Town of New Canaan commission. So, I mean, to the extent that that falls under the town attorney's jurisdiction to help, again, like I said at the beginning, we do a lot of FOIA work. And I understand that maybe there was some differences of opinion 10 years ago. But I guess what I'm saying is if there's a FOIA complaint, the town attorney's office is very much equipped to represent that sort of a situation. So, I mean, where we land at that point or where we stand in this commission's role is, I guess, an open question, but we're certainly experienced and capable in that.
Okay. Thank you. Listen, we have this budget before us. Can I just get either a vote or a general consensus that these numbers look right, subject to a contingency for legal fees above and beyond what is contemplated here, one, and two, also potential consultants? What would be a fair number if you wanted to put a
I need
line
to
item
do a
for
little more
consultants?
research.
Okay, that's fine.
I would hope no more than 10,000.
Okay, well, there's a 15% contingency for $13,000 right now, but you know,
Still maybe put that in and.
put it in
if we
as a
don't
line
use
item.
it,
Okay,
We'll give it
Yeah.
back.
okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay. So line item for consultants for this fiscal year. Yes, Steve.
I'd love to add an E&O rider if that's possible, through the town's insurance also,
Endorsement, yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
as a potential contingency.
Yeah.
If there's a minor fee, it's just.
Yeah.
I've seen
It's
those.
probably de minimis and they
Yeah.
probably just add to it, which is what I've seen in. Yeah.
Okay. So what I will do then is I will modify this memo, which is Cynthia's memo, add those features, find out what some of these numbers might be. You're going to do some further research. And then we'll share in 2 weeks and then release it to the budget folks.
And I'll call you tomorrow too.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask for approval until next 2 weeks from now. Okay? Any other further questions or comments? Bill, I don't, Bill is, I've got one to merit. Thank you. So we have Todd moves to adjourn. Second
second.
is Bill, of course. All those in favor, unanimous. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Drive safe. It's slippery out there.
It is.
Good night, everyone.